so boys, we're going to continue with this question we started over here. So you're down to here so far, and we're going to be using plus 25 and minus 24 as the numbers to go in for our factors. So if you look over here, we're taking that plus 25 and minus 24 and putting it into the bracket with I. And we're factorising a letter with I here. So brackets I in the beginning of the brackets and put your plus 25 and your minus 24 in, equals 0. So if you solve these brackets, make each one equal to 0, this one will give you I equals minus 25, and this one will give you I equals 24. So we have two numbers for I. Now I was representing integers. The I itself is representing the first integer. So we can actually have a negative integer. So we're not going to get rid of the negative number this time. We got rid of it last time because it was used for a height, and a height can't be negative. But an integer can be negative. So we're keeping both these answers. But we haven't finished the question. A lot of boys will stop there because they think, yep, I'm done, I've found my integers. But you haven't found your integers. The I was the first integer. So you found that there are two possible first integers. So now we have to go and find the next integer, the next consecutive one, which we found before where we said was I plus 1. So I'm going to take the first I value that we got up here, minus 25, and I'm going to use that to find I plus 1. So I'm going to put my minus 25 in for I, and then add the 1, and it gets me minus 24. So I've got an integer of minus 25, and the next consecutive integer is minus 24. That makes sense. So then I'm going to take the other I value of 24, and I'm going to put that in to find I plus 1. So I'm going to put the 24 in for I, and work that out, and it gives me 25. So I've got a first integer of 24, and the next consecutive integer is 25. And that makes sense. So when you give your answer, you say the integers are minus 25 and minus 24, or 24 and 25. So we have two possible pairs of answers. So be very careful, because a lot of people get to there and think they're done. They think they found the two integers, but those two are not consecutive integers. Minus 25 and 24 are not consecutive integers. Okay, so when you get to your answer, if you wanted to check this, all you would do would be go back and go, does the product of the two integers equal 600? So you just get your calculator, get the product of those, multiply them, and see if it equals 600. It does. Then get these and multiply them on your calculator and see if it equals 600. It does too. So we have two possible pairs of answers. Okay, the next question we're doing is about a sky jumper jumping out of a plane. So we have a lot of parabolas being used with anything that's being thrown. So if you throw a ball from one person to another, even if you try and throw a flat pass, there will be some sort of a parabola happening. Okay, when people jump out of planes, there's a parabola as well. Okay, so what actually happens is you've got your plane up the top. He jumps out. Now, normally that plane's sort of travelling at some sort of speed, so it's travelling. He jumps out. Now, because the plane's travelling that way, any of you that go and do physics, or you might be doing a bit of physics this year in year 10, will know that if you, don't try it, but if you jumped out of a moving train, you wouldn't just land straight next to where you jumped out from. You'd land further up, because you actually leave some of the velocity of the thing that you're on at the time. So that's what happens here. He jumps out, and there's the Skydiver, off he goes, and then he lands on the ground. So there's a few other things that come into play here. All right, so he leaves with some of the velocity that the plane had. Then he starts to fall. There is going to be a parabolic motion in that, and you can see that right here. It's got a negative letter squared. So we've got a concave down parabola. You can only see part of it. Right? Sometimes we can only see part of the parabola that's happening, not the whole thing. And that's what's happening here. It's good if you can understand a little bit about what's going on. In maths, we don't deal with other things that might happen. So if you jump out, at the moment that he jumps out, everything is just gravity happening with what's going on. But then when he opens up the parachute and you start to sort of float down, things are different because you've got the forces of the actual parachute happening as well. But that's for physics. So in maths, we're looking at what this says. After jumping from a plane, the height in metres of a skydiver above the ground, use the ground, is given by h equals 4,000 minus 5t squared, where, now you need to understand what all the letters are, t is the time in seconds after jumping. A lot of people won't actually look at that. Alright, so you're going, oh well, I don't know, what time is it? It's when he jumps, then the time starts. So it's like you put a stopwatch on, click, the moment he jumps out. Okay, so the first question says, how high was the plane at the moment the skydiver jumped? Well, if we start the stopwatch when he jumps, time is 0 then, because that's when you're starting the watch. Okay, so we know that the t equals 0 for that, and we're finding how high, so we're finding the height. So we're going to write down the equation they've given us, and we're going to put that 0 in, and if you use your calculator there, or just work it out yourself, you'll get the height is 4,000 metres. So in other words, when he jumped out of the plane, the plane was 4,000 metres above the ground, and the time is 0. So really what you're looking at here, that's a t-axis. So that's the origin on your number plane. Up here is where you jumped out. That would be your y-intercept, or because we're using h, it would be your h-intercept. So really what we're sort of trying to see is a graph here. Okay, in B it says, what was the skydiver's height after 20 seconds? I haven't worked this one out, so I'll just get my calculator. Oh, we could possibly work this out ourselves anyway. All right, so we've got 20 seconds is the time, so you can put 20 in for t, and we're just going to put all of that in the calculator. I think it ends up being 2,000, but we'll check. Okay, so it ends up being 2,000 metres. So after 20 seconds, he's at 2,000 metres. So he's 4 kilometres up when he jumps out. He's 2 kilometres above the ground at 20 seconds. So it takes him 20 seconds to get to half his height. All right, in C, the skydiver opened his chute at 1,000 metres. How long did it take the skydiver to reach this height? Correct to 1 decimal place. So we're using our formula or equation they've given us. Now they told you that the height was opened at 1,000 metres. They should have said above the ground because that's what they mean. So we're going to put that 1,000 in for the height, and we're just trying to find how long, which means we're looking for a time. All right, so we're going to start doing this. So we've got 1,000 put in there, and we've just got the rest of your equation on the other side. You can see it's a quadratic equation with the t squared there. We don't need to make this one equal to 0 because there's not a term that has a t in it. So if you've just got a t squared, it's going to be a simple quadratic equation. You don't need to make it equal to 0 here. So I'm going to move the minus 5t squared over to the other side to be positive 5t squared, and I'm going to have all my numbers over here. So I'm going to move my plus 1,000 over here to be minus 1,000. So using your calculator, 4,000 minus 1,000 is 3,000. Then we're going to get rid of our 5 by dividing by it over here. And then we end up with t squared equals 600. And then we end up with t equals plus or minus root 600. Don't forget you have two solutions, plus and minus. So we have t equals plus or minus root 600. Okay, going from there. We're going to write t equals positive root 600. I'm getting rid of the negative answer. So you should actually give both answers to start with. Now we're going to get rid of the negative answer because the t represented time, and time can't be negative. So all we have to do now is use your calculator to get the root of 600, and it will be a decimal. They've given you a hint here, and it's going to be to 1 decimal place. When you work it out on the calculator and then round to 1 decimal place, you'll end up with 24.5. Don't forget to write your units on the end. The time is in seconds. So make sure you're looking over here at what things are. Time is in seconds and the height is in metres. Okay, and that's the end of the examples. So I've only done 3 examples, and I'm pretty sure you'll be all right with the other ones having looked at them, but good luck with your homework.